Hello, AP US. I hope everybody made it back safe and sound from the spring break, and I hope that your families are doing well. Again, if you need anything from me, if you need anything about anything, you can get in touch with me through Edmodo, through the school email, and through the other email that I put down, Jose Gomez-Rivera at yahoo.com. Smaller case, no spaces. Again, if you need anything, get in touch with me. Okay. Again, I'm looking towards the AP US exam, which will be a free response, long essay, about 45 minutes. I'm looking at issues that may be important for that essay, and in that light, I know we've talked about the American Revolution and the two elements, the two currents in the American Revolution that sprung out of the experience of the Enlightenment and the Great Awakening, kind of creating a sense of American identity and American rebelliousness against authority. The Enlightenment, of course, with the ideas of John Locke, establishing contractual form of government. That is, that government gets its power, its legitimacy from the voluntary exercise of the voluntary giving of authority to the state by the people. That is, the people give the government its legitimacy by giving up certain rights so that government can protect three basic inalienable rights that government can never take away, because that is the essence of the contract, and that is life, liberty, and property. John Locke becomes a critical thinker in the development of American revolutionary thought, and you have the process during the American Revolution that goes from what Wilkinson argued was a revindication of English rights. That is, that Great Britain had denied the Americans the rights that they had as Englishmen, and therefore the struggle was to revindicate those rights. Right? Taxation without representation was a violation of John Locke's contractual form of government, and therefore this had been given to the English people in the glorious Revolution of 1688, and that was denied the Americans when it should have been preserved for the American colonies. They saw themselves as Englishmen. That later morphed or changed into the idea that American rights did not proceed from English rights, did not come from English rights, but from natural rights. That is an Enlightenment idea that there are natural laws that govern everything, and these natural laws apply in the political process, and therefore, when these natural laws are violated, it creates oppression and tyranny, and that was the idea that was developed. It came out of Locke's concept of contractual government and natural rights. Remember, the Enlightenment argued that there were natural laws underpinning everything. As they underpinned the universe that Newton mapped out, everything else had natural laws, and politics was no exception. Politics had natural rights that, if discovered rationally and by eliminating superstition, could be applied to the political process, and therefore eliminate all tyranny, all oppression, and liberate the full potential of human society. Well, that is the idea that drives people like Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, to some extent John Adams, Alexander Hamilton, George Mason, James Madison, James Wilson. All these people are motivated by the ideas that are encapsulated in that. And of course, you have the Declaration of Independence, which is essentially a document that states that the king has violated natural rights in the Americas, and therefore the Americans now choose to create a new government. The contract has been broken. We have a new contract. Okay, I think that will be important on the AP exam. But I also think that the constitutional arguments over states' rights and federal rights are likely to be in the AP U.S. exam. It's a issue that is being debated right now. President Trump, Governor Cuomo, Governor Murphy, they've all argued this issue, interestingly enough, from opposing viewpoints. The idea that states have rights and powers that the federal government cannot infringe on are anchored in the Bill of Rights, particularly Article 9 and Article 10. You should be familiar with those two articles. Article 9 says that those powers not enumerated in the Constitution, not set out in the Constitution, are reserved to the people. Article 10 basically says that rights not given to the government are reserved to the states. This is where you get the arguments of states' rights. The chief champion of states' rights ideology or states' rights position was Thomas Jefferson. And you remember that opposing him was Alexander Hamilton with the implied powers argument. Alexander Hamilton basically argued that the Constitution had set out broad goals and objectives that bound the federal government to act in particular ways. He gave the example of stabilizing and controlling the currency, that is, managing the currency. His argument was that gave, by implication, demanded that the federal government also have the power to establish a Bank of the United States, a central bank. Because he argued that the only way to regulate currency was to establish a central bank. That is the only way you can do it. And therefore, if Article 1 of the Constitution gives the federal government the responsibility of regulating currency, that you had to also, by implication, have the power to create a central bank. Thomas Jefferson basically put up Article 10 of the Bill of Rights, which was demanded by people who thought that the Constitution had gave the federal government too much power. These were the anti-federalists. And Jefferson basically sided with them later on, and he basically said Article 10 gives the states those rights that are not specifically set out in the Constitution. I think that might be an issue that the AP examiners may want to test you on, and you should be familiar with that. I'd like you to look for questions, long essay questions, AP questions that deal with that issue, and perhaps look at them and answer them over the next few days. I will try to do a live session on Friday. I will set out the instructions on Thursday. Okay, guys, I'll stop right now. And I hope everybody's well. And remember, if you need me, anything, okay?